Good afternoon, Grow. You ready to talk about AEO? Or are you here to save a good spot for Louis Theroux? Well, regardless of why you're here, I'm glad you are, because in 2028, the majority of answer engine traffic is going to come from ChatGPT. I would have dropped my mic if it wasn't physically attached to my person. But let's just take that in for a second. Google, the undisputed traffic overlord of the past 20 years, and I do mean overlord, is no longer number one. That's not a small shift. That is a tectonic plate movement under everything we do in demand gen. And that means that what you do now is going to determine whether your business is winning in 2028. At HubSpot, we saw this shift happening early, and we quickly pivoted our strategy. Which is why, I am proud to say, we are now the most visible CRM in answer engines. My legal team, Erica, our Chief Legal Officer, is here today. They didn't want us to show you competitor names, but I'll give you a hint. They rhyme with Yoho and Sales Course, Wales Course. Almost gave it away there. You wouldn't have gotten it if I hadn't made that mistake. I'm Asia Frost. I am the Senior Director of Global Growth and Paid Advertising at HubSpot. I was born in 2016. I'm just kidding. I haven't gotten that much sun. I started at HubSpot 9 years ago in 2016. And honestly, I think that this is the most exciting era of the company and marketing yet. So over the next 29 or so minutes, I'm going to walk you through what is changing about how people discover brands like HubSpot and yours, what a successful top-of-funnel demand strategy looks like in the AI era, and most importantly, your strategy for executing it. And we're going to even have some time for Q&A at the end. So please start thinking of your questions now, but good ones only. OK, the first major change that I want to talk through is where conversions are coming from. 3 years ago, high-level educational content like HubSpot's blog, can I get a whoop if you've ever read a HubSpot blog post? OK, that was, a little anemic, but I'll take it. That was driving the majority of HubSpot's top-of-funnel demand. And the rest was coming from paid and channels that put humans front and center, like HubSpot Academy. I'm afraid to ask for a whoop, but who has taken a HubSpot Academy course? Oh, stronger. OK, thank you. And at the time, we looked at this data, and we realized just how dependent on Google search we were, and how much of an opportunity these personality-driven channels represented. So that's why, in 2021, we acquired The Hustle. We built out HubSpot's third-party creator network in 2022. And we launched multiple YouTube channels alongside our OG HubSpot marketing channel, including How to HubSpot, Marketing Against the Grain, which I know y'all got a live recording of earlier today, and more. And in 2025, that bet has really paid off. Human-first content is making up the majority of our demand, and we get 35 to 40 million engagements every single month across our media network. Educational content, meanwhile, is just 28% of our demand. And that's because of our changing investments, but it's also because what is happening on the internet. As you may have heard, maybe on LinkedIn, Google's AI-generated summaries have siphoned away educational traffic, and not just HubSpot's. AIOs now show up in nearly 6 in 10 searches. And when they do, click-through rate is halved. Google is keeping people on Google rather than sending them to websites. Buyer behavior, that's changed too. And I put the U in behavior for you, Europe. More than 50% of buyers now say they're using AI to make purchasing decisions. Armed with a short list, they turn to other people, watching YouTube videos, reading reviews on G2, Capterra, browsing comments on social media. Shout out to HubFan420, our biggest fan. May you never stop posting. And by the time they arrive at a vendor's website, they are far more informed, and they have far more conviction in their choices than they've ever had before. Which is why they convert at more than 3 times the rate of traditional visitors in a lot less time they generate a lot more revenue. It's a win-win-win. That means that the traffic that we are able to drive from answer engines, not only is it going to become one of the most predominant sources of demand, but it is incredibly valuable. And that brings us to AEO, the content, technical, and offsite tactics that you can use to maximize your brand's visibility in answer engines. AEO belongs in the amplify stage of the loop marketing framework. And I am really excited to walk you through the plays that HubSpot is using. But to understand why those plays are working, you need a crash course in how answer engines formulate answers. I promise I'm going to make this quick and painless. The first concept that is very important to know is called query fan-out. When someone asks ChatGPT a question or Google something that triggers an AI overview, like where's the best place to go after grow, AI doesn't just come up with the answer to that one question. It's going to break it into a bunch of sub-questions, like bars in Westminster that don't charge 22 pounds for a martini, places to casually bump into grow speakers without it being awkward, best late-night food after drinking Westminster, best place for drunk food that won't destroy you. And then it's going to go out, and it's going to find all the answers to those specific queries and synthesize them into one result. I'm not sure that I have all 4 stages in me tonight, but if you do, Godspeed. The second concept you need to know is called memory. Every time you ask a question, AI is going to factor in a lot of additional information about you, like everything you've ever asked before, what you've clicked on, your emails, your Google Drive files, anything you've connected to Claude or ChatGPT, like Asana or HubSpot. If you haven't connected ChatGPT and HubSpot, that is the one reason you can pull out your phone right now that won't hurt my feelings. And what that means is that every response AI is generating is incredibly personalized. OK, those are the need-to-know concepts. Congratulations, you have just earned a very official badge for your LinkedIn profile. The first tactic that we're going to go through under AEO is content. And I'm going to give you a very simple strategy. To increase your visibility in AI, stop publishing the ultimate guide to everything and start publishing the exact answer to the exact question your buyer is asking in ChatGPT. AI has completely commodified broad educational content, like the ultimate guide to content marketing. So for every 101 guide that you used to publish, you need to create 10 laser-focused pieces that each answer persona-specific questions. But where do you start? You could start anywhere. At HubSpot, we have developed a very straightforward process to figure out who we should be creating content for and on what topics. And it's going to start, like many good things do, with a 3x4 grid. You're going to create a 3x4 grid for each product. And across the top, you'll list your buyer personas. The more specific, the better. So you don't want Marketing Manager Margaret. You want Marketing Manager Margaret at a 200-person logistics company. Because AI responses are so contextualized, the way you think about visibility and content needs to be highly contextualized too. Then you're going to put the stages of the buyer journey down the side. And in each cell, you're going to map the high-intent questions that that persona is asking in that stage about that product. So you're going to have a ton of grids. At HubSpot, we started with separate grids for Sales Hub, Marketing Hub, Service Hub. You get the gist. And we've now created enough content that we are going down to grids for the feature layer. But how do you actually populate those grids? How do you figure out what people are actually asking in AI? OK, there are 3 methods, and you're going to use all of them. The first is pulling keyword data from Ahrefs, SEMrush, Search Console, pick your poison. You might be thinking, Asia, why are you talking about keyword research tools? Is this an SEO presentation or an AEO presentation? No, it is an AEO presentation, but we don't have prompt data and volume from answer engines yet. Until we have that data, then you are going to use your keyword research as the best proxy for what your audience cares about. But you're not going to stop there. You are also going to use social listening tools like Meltwater or Common Room to pull questions from Quora, Reddit, YouTube, Instagram. Your buyers are asking questions in these places already formatted as questions. So these are some of your best clues as to the questions that people are asking in AI. And then you are going to layer in chat transcripts and sales calls. Mine your CRM. If you don't have these transcripts, then actually talk to your sales and customer success people and ask them what questions people are asking. These are your highest intent questions, and so they are the most important to have content on. All right, once you have compiled all of that data, you're going to tag the queries and sort and format them into funnel stages. I highly recommend creating a ChatGPT or a Claude project to do this, and you can use this very straightforward framework. Awareness questions look like unbranded, how do I do X? What's the best way to do Y? Consideration questions are best tools for ABC, top solutions for XYZ, while evaluation questions compare multiple options head-to-head, and decision questions ask whether a specific product or service can accomplish a specific task. Here's how that all comes to life. Again, please use AI to do this. If you don't, you will end up cursing my name, or your marketing associate will curse my name, whoever does this work, but either way, I don't need the bad karma. Now that you have your questions, you have to figure out where your brand is, and maybe more importantly, isn't showing up in those responses. In March 2024, I built and launched HubSpot's AEO Grader with the help of our incredible web dev and marketing technology teams to help brands understand just that. AEO Grader will give you a fantastic high-level overview of your visibility. It's totally free. We just launched it in 5 more languages. But to go a level deeper, use a tool like XFunnel. HubSpot actually just announced that we were acquiring XFunnel last week, so when I gave this presentation at Inbound, I couldn't say that. Now it's all one big happy HubSpot family. And XFunnel is really, really powerful because it shows you visibility by question for all major answer engines. So you can see here that HubSpot is appearing in these responses for this question across all the engines that we care about. But there are some questions we care about where we don't show up, and those are visibility gaps. Once you've identified visibility gaps for your brand, you can start creating actual content. And here's where AEO truly starts to diverge from traditional SEO. Let's take a hypothetical awareness gap for HubSpot. As a sales representative, I have no idea which leads are worth pursuing. What are my options? In the old world, we'd create a guide to lead scoring, we'd optimize it for Google, we'd slap an ebook CTA on it, and we'd call it a day. But if you remember Query Fanout from a few minutes ago, to show up as a recommendation in answer engines, we need to create hyper-specific content answering each subquery. My team at HubSpot built an internal tool to pull the exact sub-questions that answer engines break a query into. You can use Qphoria by Mike King or Diane's Fanout tool. These are both free tools. They work the same way. They will take a query, and they will give you a structured breakdown of related sub-questions, exactly the questions that AI is looking for answers to when it synthesizes a response. So this question about how to effectively prioritize sales leads breaks down into the following queries, which we need to make sure our page addresses. And that leads us to the next step, creating content that is structured for answer engines. These are the best practices that we have learned and implemented at HubSpot. I'm going to umbrella them all under technical tactics because they're all about the structure of a page. And fair warning, I'm going to go pretty fast here, but there will be a very snapshot-ready slide at the end of the section, which is the second reason you can pull out your phone without hurting my feelings. I will say, nothing warms a speaker's heart like seeing a row of cell phones. It's very nice. OK, number 1 on our AEO page checklist, put the answer first. The first sentence should answer the primary question completely, because answer engines are looking for that quick validation that they're in the right place. So here's what that looks like. The most effective way to prioritize sales leads is by using a lead scoring system that ranks contacts based on their fit and engagement. The lead is not buried, folks. OK, the next best practice. Your page should then go a click deeper. And this looks like 2 to 3 short paragraphs that are going to expand on your answer with context, definitions, methodology. This will signal to answer engines that your answer is credible and complete. Number 3, reference original data throughout. Answer engines are looking for net new information to cite, which you can provide in the form of stats, original data, and case studies. This doesn't need to come from expensive surveys. Usually when I talk about original research, people get kind of a weird look on their face, and they're like, oh, we don't have a ton of budget. How are we going to do that? Use your CRM, hopefully your HubSpot CRM. Again, talk to your customer success and sales teams for original insights. Kip Bodner, our CMO, who is here today, got this insight from talking to our marketing and sales teams about how they improved our own lead scoring systems. This was a very inexpensive original insight for us to provide in this blog post. Number 4, include an FAQ. At the bottom of every page, you are going to answer at least 3 sub-questions, each with its own mini direct answer and short explanation, so a micro version of how you framed the overall page. And you're going to format each one of those questions with its own H3 or H4 heading, with the goal of getting AI to really easily find and lift it. And these FAQs are also a great way to optimize for fan-out queries. You can basically knock out 3 to 4 at once. Number 5, add structure up the wazoo. Answer engines are lazy readers. It's kind of like when I say I read an article and I actually mean that I watched a TikTok. So you want to make your content as easy to understand as possible with bullets, super explicit headers, tables, structured lists, anything but walls of text. Number 6, make sure each section can stand on its own. Answer engines don't actually read pages, they read things in passages. It's called chunking. That's literally the technical term, which always reminds me of, what your dog does when it's not feeling well. Which means, for you, that every section needs to make sense, even if AI hasn't read the section before or after it. All comes back to this concept of lazy reader. Here is an anti-example from a little newspaper you might have heard of, the New York Times. It's a pop quiz. This requires audience interaction. What do you think Mr. Strothmeyer is talking about here? And you can just shout answers out. Sandwich, okay. It's pretty good. Any other guesses? A wrap, okay. You're pretty clued in. These are good guesses. Okay. As long as you have that crunchy thing in the middle and you know how to fold it, you can put anything in there. So you're circling around the idea. The answer is a crunch wrap. For anyone who has never had the glory that is the crunch wrap, it is like the Greg's sausage roll for Americans. I did use ChatGPT to find that reference. I hope that's close. But if a human is going to struggle to understand Mr. Strothmeyer's reference without context, an answer engine is certainly not going to be able to. So when you are creating content, when you are reviewing content, literally give it the Taco Bell test and make sure that every section can stand on its own. I've saved the best for last, which is why there is a helpful little sparkle emoji next to it. Number 7, tie every point back to the product. You need to reinforce to the answer engine why your product is relevant to the topic so that it knows to recommend you. If you simply give answer engines educational and original insights without tying those insights back to your product, you are making them smarter without reinforcing why that concept is relevant to your brand and therefore why you should get a recommendation. So this part is key. Tie every point back to the product. And that means you're going to have a 1-2 punch. Here is some good content to get your attention, and here's why that topic is deeply connected to what my product can do. There should be a product reference in every paragraph, every other paragraph. It's that many product references. Okay, you can now optimize a page for answer engines. Last but not least, let's talk about a very important part of AEO, how you build authority online, your new authority. And this is your offsite strategy. When this was a Google game, backlinks were the most important way to grow your site authority. But answer engines don't really care about backlinks. They care about mentions. Is your brand getting positive shout-outs on Reddit, LinkedIn, review sites? And here's how HubSpot has generated many, many thousands of mentions since we began this strategy. We started with the websites that answer engines are already linking to in responses for our priority questions, especially the ones where HubSpot isn't visible but should be. And you can use XFunnel for this. We can see here in this example that HubSpot is mentioned in a Tavo Q article that is being cited 14 times. Fantastic. But not in a useful AI article that also has 14 citations. And this is going to make it a priority for our outreach team. Getting positive brand mentions in cited sources looks a lot like classic link building. Publishing guest posts, getting featured in roundups, asking if the website will update an existing article to include you. However, unlike in the old days, we don't care whether that mention is hyperlinked. We do care immensely how HubSpot products are described. The mention needs to integrate our messaging so that answer engines learn our positioning. The third step is leveraging social proof. That means review platforms like G2, Capterra, TrustRadius. They are incredibly sticky in answer engine responses. Answer engines love UGC, or user-generated content. And so increasing your presence on these platforms, especially with specific feature praise, can really shape how AI describes your product. Last, but certainly not least, seed human-first channels by partnering with YouTubers, newsletters, LinkedIn thought leaders, so that their content includes your product in context. And this is really a 2-for-1. You can meet buyers where they are and where AI is looking and training. And the goal is that when AI models look around to decide what to recommend, they keep bumping into your brand in authoritative, high-context mentions. Now, this is kind of misleading because I put this all on one slide and I've made it look quick and easy, but make no mistake, it is a lot of work. And as I mentioned, at HubSpot, we have a full-time team that is just dedicated to that effort, which I know most companies do not have. So if you can only pick one place to start, identifying AI citations that you can influence is the lowest hanging fruit for most companies. That was your 3-part AEO strategy. Now let's talk about how to see whether it works, measuring success. In traditional SEO, then you would track rankings, organic sessions, click-through rate. We're still tracking all of these things, but we have a brand new search scorecard for the AI era. In this world, we are also tracking AI visibility, which looks at, for each query that we care about, on the engines that we care about, are we recommended? We're looking at AI share of voice. Of all the AI responses that mention a solution, how often is HubSpot named versus our competitors? And this is really important. This tells us whether we are gaining or losing recommendation share over time. In September and in October, ChatGPT turned down the dial on brand visibility, which means that brands across the board are being recommended less. Now, if you're just looking at your visibility, you would freak out and you would say, whoa, what did we just do? What went wrong? If you look at your visibility coupled with your share of voice, you know that, okay, our share of voice has stayed the same, our visibility has gone down. It's something that the platform has done. The third metric that you're going to look at is AI citations. How often is AI using your website content to answer questions? Now, visibility is the North Star metric because visibility is what's going to ultimately influence that conversion, whether someone goes to your website, whether it's right away or 5 days later or 15 days later. But AI citations are important too, because what we have seen at HubSpot is that when an answer engine cites our content versus someone else's, we are recommended more positively and we are higher up in that citation, which makes a lot of sense. We're always going to say the nicest things about ourselves. But if you care about owning the source, which you do, you care about citations. And then last but not least, we have AI referral demand. Are you seeing visits, conversions, and sales from people who first encountered you in AI responses? And I will be honest, this is hard to track because most people are not going directly from an LLM to your website, which is why I recommend implementing something like a post-purchase checkout survey, a really simple, back to basics, how did you hear about us? Answer engines are also now a referral in HubSpot as of last quarter. These are all illustrative stats, but I do want to share some very legit ones. Since we launched our AEO strategy at HubSpot, we have attained the highest share of voice in our space. Citations have improved 433%, and demand has gone up by nearly 2,000%. And I very much believe that you can get these kind of results too. So by the time we hit January 2028, your brand will be dominating in answer engines as they become the predominant source of demand. Thank you very much.